You're listening to another episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns.
That's right, everybody. It's another live football episode, your Football Wednesday of Tap Outs and Touchdowns. As always, it's your guy, Bully Rye. And a lot of stuff happened in the world of college football last week and going into this week. But in order to talk more about football, I'm always going to have to bring in my co-host, Banker Bill. Bill, what's up, bud?
What's happening, man? Football Wednesday. I like that we claim that. We're gonna stick with it.
I'm with you. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Once again, having difficulties with Instagram. It's not letting me select the go live on Instagram. Maybe we'll get on there tonight. I don't know. Not going to make any promises. But whatever you are joining us, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section so you can join the conversation. Bill, I think we should go ahead and jump right into it with Homer's Corner. And mine's going to be pretty simple and straightforward this week. My Homer's Corner goes to the Detroit Lions, who last week won their 11th straight game of the season. They have clinched a playoff spot. And if it wasn't for the NFC North being really good, probably would have already clinched the division like the Buffalo Bills did. Listen, this is a historical season for the Detroit Lions, not just because I'm a homer for them, but if you take a look at what they've done in the past, they're the only team to ever go 0-17 in an NFL season. They've had some of the greatest players in all of NFL history between Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, and the list can go on. And they don't have a single Super Bowl to their name. They don't have really a whole lot of winning seasons to talk about. For a while, they didn't make the playoffs. And right now they're being talked about as being a Super Bowl front runner, especially out of the NFC. So I wanted to get on here and sort of just brag about the Detroit Lions after winning their 11th straight. They will have their win streak put to the test this week, as they're going to get probably their hardest game of the year as the Buffalo Bills come to town. Bill, I know you're not going to talk football this week. Well, maybe a little bit football, but you're wearing a New York Yankees hat. And if if nobody else picked up on it, you've got a little Homer's Corner of your own that, for a change, all the crap you've always ever given me about doing women's basketball and the College World Series when we're in UFL season, and you're going to talk about some baseball here, maybe specifically one person in particular. Bill, take Homer's Corner away, man.
I'm a little bit disappointed that you compared women's college basketball to Major League Baseball, but that's a different conversation. I just wanted to talk about Juan Soto and the absolutely outrageous contract that was just handed to him by the New York Mets. Probably rightly so, because there were other teams that were willing to pay darn near the same amount of money. But I didn't want to talk about how large the contract was. Obviously, it's going to be part of the conversation, but I'm a little bit concerned with how expensive it's going to start being for us as fans, spectators, whatever, to go to these baseball games when you're going to be paying one individual player $765 million over 15 years. I think the Yankees, I wear the hat, obviously. I'm a big Yankees fan, but they were willing to pay $760 million for 16 years. And Soto said, no, I'm going to go across town and make a little bit more money, albeit on probably a little bit. I don't want to say it. We don't know if their roster is better or not, but they do have the Mets have some holes right now, but they have the richest owner in sports, Steve Cohen, and he's willing to pay for the team. My concern is how much of this money is going to start being passed down in the form of prices on beers and hot dogs and just seats to get into the game. I mean, the Yankees are legendary for what they charge for, seats next to home plate. I think it's thousands just to get in the Yankee Stadium and sit next to home plate in their nice little recliners that they have down close. But I mean, this is all being passed on to us as individuals watching this game. And I don't know about you, but I know that baseball has been passed up by the NBA. Baseball has been passed up, or really close to being passed up by, believe it or not, the MLS in fan support. And I apologize. My phone's blowing up, Ryan, and it's our college football league for video games. So you might hear that in the background. No, I mean, Major League Baseball isn't as popular as these other sports. Obviously, they pay basketball players ridiculous amounts of money to ride the pine. But I'm concerned, man. I'm concerned. There are sports that have salary caps. Football has a salary cap. Baseball has a luxury tax, but if you're willing to pay the luxury tax, you can pretty much spend what you want. And I believe basketball has. I honestly don't follow the NBA close enough to even know.
Soft cap.
Is this soft cap? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just get concerned because obviously we continue to raise these things. We raise these, these costs for or these contracts for these individuals that are basically just entertainers. I mean, really, that's all they are in the end, right? They're just putting on an entertainment. Sports are just entertainment. They have no product whatsoever. It's just, hey, this is fun to watch, and everybody's super competitive. And here we are. We're going to be footing the bill. This hat, I think, cost $35. And I don't know about you, but I remember it wasn't that long ago when these things cost like, $15, $20.
$20.
Yeah. And so it just keeps getting passed on to us. And I'm getting more and more concerned that these teams, these owners, these billionaires are willing to spend this much money to put one player on their roster. And they're just going to pass it on to us as fans. And I'm a little bit nervous, Ryan. I think it makes me a little bit nervous. We're talking about college football now going to be paying the players. I mean, it's all going the same direction. It doesn't get these billionaires not going to be billionaires because they spent a lot of money on a baseball player. They're going to pass it on to you and me, and I'm nervous about that situation right now, especially seeing the absolute ridiculous amount of money that was spent on what I consider. I mean, people call him a generational hitter. His on-base percentage is fantastic, but the guy, if you look at it, he's a career 285 hitter that hits about 33 home runs a year. That's not great. That's not even as good as Don Mattingly in the 80s. Like, come on. It's not even close, right? So I'm nervous about this. Is he great? He doesn't steal bases. What does he do? He doesn't play outfield all that good. So 285 and 30 home runs, $765 million. I'm nervous.
So a couple things I do want to rebut. First of all, shout out to 323 College Shame Day over on Instagram. I got the Instagram feed up, so yay for me while you're in Numbers Corner. Podcast Mini comes in the chat. I hate seeing Soto as a Met, but I feel like the Mets paid a lot of money for a one-dimensional player, kind of your point, Bill.
Thank you.
Then Mama Frick in the house says, I so agree with you. We're the ones paying the price. Mm-hmm. So I want to say this. While I understand your concern, your New York Yankees have been doing this for a really long time. Going as far back to like the early 2000s when they had the homegrown talent in Jeter. But they went out and got the Johnny Damons. They went out and got at one point they went and got Brian McCann from the Braves because it was weird seeing him without a beard on his face. The Yankees have done this for years. The Dodgers have been doing this for years, and they won a championship doing it this season, right? The only reason I would tell you not to be concerned, your Uncle Gary says spot on, is because it's the Mets, okay? The Mets want to be the Yankees so bad. The Mets want to be the Dodgers so bad that they are still paying a player who has not played in over 20 years $1 million+ a year. And we get to say Happy Bonilla Day until like 2036. Like the Mets last season paid, and I'm sorry we're talking baseball on a football show. Y'all got to bear with us for a second.
It's my fault.
But they paid something like 10 players against their salary last year to guys that weren't on the team. So like, yeah, I get it. Like we're afraid that the money is going to get passed on to us, and it already does. Mm-hmm. Like the licensing agreements, like this NFL hat. I don't remember how much I paid for this hat, but like this logo continues to inflate in value. The logo on your hat continues to inflate in value. The logo on the front of my hat, as the Lions continue to get better, will be in more of a high demand where you're going to have to pay more for it. So in one aspect, yes, you're hoping that the Mets can bring a championship with Juan Soto, because otherwise they spend a lot of money for not a whole lot of output. And like, and it said the Yankees are still big brother, Bill, so don't worry.
And they did show that by signing Max Fried from the Braves.
Again, Max, good luck having another pitcher that's going to miss probably 6 weeks out of the year in the middle of the summertime because he can't stay healthy either. Like,
take him in the playoffs.
Awesome. You take him in the playoffs because we did. You saw how that went. So anyway, I get your concern. At the end of the day, these billionaire owners are going to do what they want to do. And if you're willing to pay the price, then eventually that falls on the consumer. Like there's a reason, and I hate to say this because I would love to try to go down to Orlando for the South Carolina Bowl game this year. But the reason that I didn't go to a South Carolina game this year was not because like I'm a bad fan. It's because I had a lot of other stuff that happened, and I can't afford season tickets to South Carolina when you can't guarantee they're going to go 9-3 every year. Why? Like when I was still a season ticket holder.
Did you just say you're a fair weather fan? Like if they would guarantee that they were going to go 9-3,
no,
you're willing
I'm
to
getting
spend
there.
more?
So when I had season tickets, it was just fortunate enough that those were the best years in Gamecock football history, because the years prior to that, I was a student at the University of South Carolina, and so I got my student tickets for free because that's what you should get as a student. And shame on Clemson for trying to make the kids pay for their student tickets going forward. But if you don't know that story, Bill, we can talk off air. Maybe we can talk about it on the show next week. But Clemson is toying around with the idea of a sports tax on the students, where they have to pay so many dollars a year as part of their tuition in order to guarantee that they get tickets to their sporting events. But like the idea, like everything has gotten so expensive to do and to enjoy. And so whether or not you pay Juan Soto $765 million, or you pay like Barry Bonds III $15,000 a year, the idea is to win championships. And if you think that Juan Soto is going to win you a championship, that is going to drive the value of your franchise up. That is going to bring more eyes. It is going to bring sponsors. It is going to bring the money in. And so, like, I wouldn't be worried about like passing on the buck. Like all of a sudden, your $8 beer is going to cost $20. We're already there, right? Like, let's talk about it. The ECHL hockey games across the league, ticket prices went up. And so unless it's a really good deal or like a playoff game, I don't want to spend $60 to go watch a minor league hockey team. So yeah, it's and there was nothing happened there. There was no catalyst to raising those prices. They just realized, listen, we could probably squeeze a little bit more blood out of this turnip, and that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, I get it. It sucks, but at the end of the day, I have gone somewhere to an event where a beer cost me $20. It is not a joke. Yeah. So nevertheless, I'm with you.
I won't buy them at that price. I mean, we both know that at some point, I mean, you talked about the ECHL hockey games. How many games have we gone to in the last 2 years?
We haven't gone to a single one this year. We normally go to like 3 or 4 a year.
Exactly. They've priced us out.
Yep. So, so yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen with a Juan Soto signing, but like to your point, like even closer, like more to your point about the fact that like the NBA does have a salary cap that has gone up over the last couple of years. The NFL has a salary cap. Like at some point, if you're going to create competitive parity in Major League Baseball, you're going to have to implement some sort of salary cap, because like you said, like if they're willing to pay a luxury tax, like they'll pay the luxury tax if it means they're bringing home trophies. The only problem with that is that the Yankees haven't brought home a trophy in what is it, 20 years? When was the last time? Yeah, so 15 years since they've won a title. Yeah. And so like the return on the investment isn't there.
No.
So like that's when you ask, okay, how much more are the Mets going to pay players? Like he's under contract until he's 40. Is Juan Soto now? So like he just decided, I'm going to retire a Met, or the Mets are going to have to eat his salary to ship him off in 5 years when he's banged up and can't stay healthy, and they need to move on. So we've seen teams in the NFL do it the last couple of years. The Buffalo Bills did it with Ryan Fitzpatrick years ago. The New York Giants just did it with Daniel Jones. I would suspect that the Cleveland Browns may do it with Deshaun Watson. And I wouldn't be surprised.
Broncos did it with Russell Wilson.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers did it with Miles Sanders. So at some point, this contract is, if the first thing you thought was, man, why did he take another $5 million to go across town? Instead of your first thought being, oh, it's the Mets doing Met things, I'm not sure what to say about it, because this is 100% a New York Mets thing to do.
I'm not sad. Now, let's be clear. I'm not sad about it. I actually was happy when I thought the bidding was going over 600,000, and I'm going, ooh, that's a lot for Soto, right?
Yeah.
Then it went over 700. And I was like, no, we don't need to do this. There are other good players out there that you can split this between two guys and get, way more, obviously more of your roster. Yeah.
Yes.
To get, I mean, look at Fried. I'd rather have Fried for decent money than, putting Soto in the lineup. I mean, a pitcher, pitches every 5 games, but Fried can win a lot of them. So, yeah, I'm not unhappy that the Yankees didn't sign Soto. I'm actually very pleased that the Mets took that away from them. And I feel like, stopped them from making a really dumb mistake. So I feel like that's what the Mets did. But for me, if you're going to continue to pay players like this, it's going to raise the prices for all of us. And I don't like seeing that, because obviously we want to attend these sports games, from time to time, because it is an outing. It's memories that are made. And the pricing is out. You're just talking about the ECHL. Like it's a minor league hockey team that wants to spend, minimum, we have to spend $40 to go watch them play. That's just too much for me.
Well, you talk about making some boneheaded moves. Let's go over into the world of college football and ask if we've seen one of the biggest boneheaded moves in all of college football. As if you weren't aware of it, North Carolina fired Mac Brown. I'm going to get the words right. Fired Mac Brown.
English is hard.
To end the season. I thought it was a great move. I mean, Mac Brown was old. I can't believe they brought him back. He only lasted about 4 years back in North Carolina. And they have decided on their new head coach. And their next head coach is going to be 6-time NFL Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Belichick, as he is set to become the next head coach at the University of North Carolina. I believe Bill Belichick is 72 years old. Is that right?
I think so. 72. Yeah.
Dating like a college age chick. So he should fit right in at North Carolina.
So obviously, obviously he's good at attracting young talent.
So he was on the Pat McAfee show, and he talked about the fact that with NIL and with all these collectives and stuff like that, he thinks he could build something at North Carolina. My question is, and this is going to sound callous, and I don't mean for it to, but I would imagine being the head football coach of an NFL team, much less a college football team, is a pretty stressful job to have. How much time does Bill Belichick have left? Like, how much time is he going to get to create a champion in North Carolina? Like the ACC, we've talked about this. The ACC is not a strong conference. If he can come in, and this is the perfect time to do it because the transfer portal opened this week. So Bill Belichick can go basically get his pick of the litter out of the transfer portal. I don't know how good he's going to be able to do recruiting, and I don't know what he's going to be able to do long term. But he's not going to come in right away and knock off like the Clemsons and now the SMUs and the Miami of the league. Like, I don't know how else to ask this, Bill. What is happening right now? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, look. Yeah.
By the way, 323 College Shame Day says a 5-year contract has been reported. So he's under contract for the next 5 years. So he'll be pushing 80 by the time he leaves North Carolina.
I think, yes, it is stressful to be a NFL coach. However, you and I both know, and we've watched it happen. The coaching, I guess, brotherhood is a brotherhood. Once you're in it, you're in it. And it doesn't matter if you're terrible. Like Cam Cameron had one of the worst teams in the history of football with the 2007, I think it's 7, Miami Dolphins. When they went 1-15, won 1 game. And he has been coaching in the NFL ever since. He was an awful head coach, and he went right back to coaching. So is it stressful? Yes, it's obviously stressful. You're always wanting to succeed. But I feel like even if you completely flame out and fail, there's always something for you. I mean, we look at different guys, even if it's not coaching, some TV station will pick you up and pay you money to talk about football. So there's always something, right? You always become an expert. So the other part of that is I think these guys find it fun. I think you and I would find it fun to be part of an organization, to be a scout, to be a general manager, to be a coach, to be whatever. I mean, just a position coach, regardless. It's fun. Going to work is going to do football. Like, that's fun. I mean, we do this for fun, right? We're not getting paid. Exactly. So we're doing it for fun. So I think these guys are finding it fun. They get paid a lot of money to do it. And I know you're worried about, possibly Bill Belichick not being able to do it anymore. And I get that. And at some point, maybe he hits that wall, and I don't know. But Joe Paterno, how old was he when he quit? 80 something.
He was also letting a lot of really, really crummy stuff happen at Penn State.
I understand that. I'm just saying that he was old. I mean, Lou Holtz, I don't remember how old he was. He was pretty old.
Too old to be coaching South Carolina.
So is still on TV right now as a ball coach, and he has had a stroke and still talks football. So, and good for him. I mean, we love Lee Corso, right? I mean, nobody could do without him and his wearing the headgear. So I feel like he could do it for a long. I still feel like he could do it for a while. Bill Belichick does seem to be there when he's on TV. I think it's going to be fine. But a 5-year deal, I think he could do it for those 5 years. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be super interesting. I was talking to our buddy Eric, earlier today, texting back and forth about how cool that is. Like, how neat is it going to be to see Bill Belichick running a team that hasn't been very good for very long, for a while. And what player doesn't want to go play for Bill Belichick? He's known as the greatest football coach of all time.
But I think people are starting to question that. First of all, Volley probably wants to know if their defense is going to be improved. I would imagine so.
You would think.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the question is sort of, and I don't want to spend a lot more time on this subject. My question is, because it didn't seem like he was getting any NFL looks last offseason. And so I'm wondering if this isn't a way to get his last head coaching job in the NFL. Like, let's hypothetically hear me out. North Carolina, they went to they're going to a bowl game this year, so they were at least 6-6. I think they might have been 7-5.
Something like that. Yeah.
If Belichick in year 2 has North Carolina at 9-3, 10-2, at least competing for an ACC championship, not even playing for one, but like right up there. And by that point, the 16-team playoff will be implemented, because they've already talked about wanting to go bigger, and this contract is up after next year. So if he's 10-2, a 10-2 North Carolina head coached by Bill Belichick, they're going to be pushing the playoff. So, like, let's hypothetically say that's where they are in 2 years, and name a football team that might be in a really good situation with a really good quarterback and a halfway decent defense, that if you bring in a guy, say a Jim Harbaugh type, a defensive guru like a Bill Belichick, that Belichick can go in and have his last head football coaching job in the NFL. Do you think this might be a stepping stone for one Bill Belichick to return to the NFL in a couple of years?
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. I think Bill Belichick has kind of run his course in the NFL. Obviously, you said it. He's been 6-time world champion. Thank you, Tom Brady. I really do believe that, to be honest. But I think he was a good defensive coach, but the offense was up to Tom Brady, and I think Tom Brady carried that offense with terrible receivers for so many years. Anyway, different conversation. I think the NFL has run its course. I think this is just Bill Belichick doing something different just to see if he can. At 72 years old, I mean, hey, it's kind of like a cushy retirement. I'm going to go coach college football.
So 323 College Shame Day says it'll be interesting if the reports are true that part of the negotiation for him joining UNC is that his son Steven, who's the current defensive coordinator at the University of Washington right now, will join the staff and be the head coach in waiting. So after Belichick retires in 5 years' time, his son Steven Belichick will take over as the head coach for UNC. So it'll be interesting to see if that plays out. Nevertheless, Bill Belichick, 6-time Super Bowl champion head coach, will be taking on the head coaching job at the University of North Carolina. Who knows? Maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, North Carolina will be in the SEC. Maybe the SEC expands and
why?
You ever heard those rumors about when the ACC inevitably disbands?
The SEC
UNC,
only
Duke, Virginia Tech would join the SEC.
No, the SEC only poaches good teams from conferences.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. But if Belichick's got North Carolina at 10-2, Duke is 9-3 this year.
You have more faith in him than I do in 2 years. You have to have the talent on the roster to go 10-2. I'm not sure
Again,
North Carolina does.
South Carolina was competitive in year 2 under Shane Beamer because of the transfer portal. I am convinced that Bill Belichick will at least have North Carolina competitive next season. So it would be interesting to see. We got a lot of time before that.
I'd love to talk more about the transfer portal and the weird thing that happened this week.
Let's impromptu. Who cares? Let's do it. Maybe we just don't.
Did you hear about Marshall? Did you hear about Marshall?
No.
Have you heard this rumor? So apparently Marshall's coach, I think they went 9-3 or something this year. Marshall was pretty good this year. They had a pretty good football team. Their coach got hired by, I want to say, I think Southern Mississippi. I think that's a team that hired the Marshall's coach. I guess they considered that a step up. Apparently, the rumor is the entire Marshall team is willing to enter the transfer portal to go play at Southern Mississippi.
So is everybody at Southern Miss just going to get kicked off the team?
No idea, but there's no rule, nothing that stops this. So why couldn't a team completely just go, we're out?
Is the irony not lost on you that Marshall is the one team there was a movie made about a plane crash?
Talk about that.
Like,
yeah,
everybody left and they had to recreate the team, and now they may have to recreate the team because everybody's leaving with the coach.
Right. But I mean, here's this evil transfer portal that we keep talking about, and this is like ground zero, worst case scenario. The whole team is leaving.
This cannot happen.
Honestly, I think it's fantastic because this is going to force someone to step in.
Oh yeah, this is going to force regulation in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Rich
can't lose a whole team. There's no way they could rebuild the team.
Rich comes in the chat and wants to make a comment with the way the NCAA is currently talking about back to Bill Belichick for a second. He will have some success, but like the past has shown, a great NFL coach isn't always a successful college coach, and vice versa, a la your head ball coach, one Steve Spurrier.
Yeah.
Let's kind of quickly go through the conference championship weekend in college football.
I agree with that. That's good, Rich. I like that.
Yeah,
nice to see you, by the way.
Yeah, good call. College football conference championship weekend happened last weekend. Army wins the AAC, which is pretty cool. I think it's their first AAC championship. Not quite good enough to make the college football playoff, but nevertheless, congratulations to a service academy winning a conference championship. That's pretty cool. Oregon holds off Penn State to win the first Big Ten championship in their first year in the conference. The biggest, and let's Arizona State like curb stomped Iowa State to win the Big 12. We kind of saw that coming. If we're talking about all these games on the podcast pick 'em last week, Bill, congratulations. You went 5-0 because you got all these games right.
Third time this year.
Clemson kicks the field goal as time expires to win the ACC championship. And a week after losing to my South Carolina Gamecocks, Clemson makes the college football playoff as the last seed. We're going to get to that in a second. Then Georgia, considering Carson Beck hurt his elbow in the first half of this game, did not return until the end, where all he could do was hand the ball off. When backup Gunnar Stockton went down with an apparent head injury, Georgia wins the first ever overtime game in SEC championship game history as they beat Texas for the second time this season. Bill, you had all these games right. I mean, I think at least the SEC and ACC championship games gave you something to watch. Like, they were pretty fun games to watch, right?
Yeah, they're good games. I think we had them on for the things that we were doing. But yeah, they were good games. I mean, fun stuff to watch. I kind of thought they would be competitive games. I thought Clemson was a better team than SMU. SMU made it competitive. That's good.
Down the stretch, too. Clemson was up big in that game. And SMU
I actually thought they were going to run them out of the building, and I kept saying that. I think they're going to run them out of the building, and they didn't. But that's fine. I think the better team won, albeit it came right down to the end. And then Georgia versus Texas, I think we've already seen this. Georgia's better than Texas. They're better than Texas. They just are. They have better players.
Video says that Texas got beat by a quarterback that couldn't throw. That's a pretty funny thing.
I mean, at the end, yes. But I mean, Gunnar Stockton, and you said it when he came in, like, this guy was supposed to go to Carolina. I mean, okay, well, he didn't. So, what is he, 5-star? I think he's a 5-star.
Yeah, he was good friends with the Shaw family. I think Connor Shaw's dad was his high school football coach, and Connor tried to convince him to come to South Carolina, and instead goes to Georgia because he's from Georgia.
So he's legit.
Yeah, he's good. He will. I don't understand why he hasn't been starting when Carson Beck has struggled this year.
Yeah, well,
I'm surprised he hasn't gotten the job. And if you recognize he's wearing number 14, you know who else wore number 14?
Is this a Connor Shaw thing?
Connor Shaw wore number 14.
What a jerk, though. He went to Georgia and wore 14.
I know. What a bum.
Anyway, so I think they're going to be decent.
Listen, Rich even says he gave them a spark that wasn't showing
exactly
because Gunnar Stockton seems like more mobile. He is the Connor Shaw type quarterback. Listen, at this point, I'm not upset with it because Lenore Sellers is going to be a Heisman candidate next season.
Now, this year, you're not upset with it, but you were salty. We were watching the game and you said,
I don't like Oscar Delp for the same reason. The bum was all but committed to come to South Carolina, and Georgia paid him more. All right, anyway.
Yeah.
So as a result, the college football playoff ranking came out the next day, and we got to see who was in the top 12 and all that stuff. But I guess unfortunately, the University of Alabama, despite being ranked 11th in the final college football playoff poll, did not make the college football playoff as Clemson was guaranteed an automatic bid. And so being ranked 16th in the country, Clemson was able to go in the college football playoff as the 12 seed. Bill, this is, I think, where we probably wanted to spend a bulk of the show talking about. Because I have thoughts. Yeah, I'm going to give my thoughts, and I'll open the floor back to you. I think if you're going to have a 12-team playoff, the 12 teams in the playoff should be ranked 1 through 12. I don't care that you think that Clemson is 4 spots worse than Alabama. Alabama should not be number 11 in the country and not be in a 12-team playoff. So I'm trying to think. I think that they're the only team ranked in the top 12 that's not in the playoff. Who else are we looking at right now? Boise State's in. Indiana's in. Arizona State's in. Yeah, bump Arizona State. Clemson makes it. I just don't understand how some of these teams were placed in the playoff where they were. And so it's like, again, as a South Carolina fan, watching Clemson ranked 16 make the playoff a week after they lose to us is sort of frustrating, but we sort of saw it coming. And I think if Clemson had run away with the game like we expected them to, SMU doesn't make the playoff. And the reason Alabama is not in is because SMU only dropped like 1 or 2 spots to 10. Bill, what are your thoughts on the way that they rank these final teams in the final college football playoff ranking?
I agree with what you're saying about the rankings. I mean, having Clemson on the college football playoff rankings at 16 and being in the playoff makes 0 sense. What also makes 0 sense, let's start from the bottom. I mean, the whole thing's broken, to be honest. But to start from the bottom, Clemson being ranked underneath SMU. Explain to me, when a team beats a team on a neutral field, how they become ranked lower than the team that they just beat. And to that point, SMU is ranked 10th, while Clemson is ranked 16th. That makes 0 sense to me. I have no idea how the College Football Playoff Committee can even explain that one away. But my big issue with the whole thing is, what criteria were these morons using? I have no clue. I can't. All right. Oregon won. Fine. Yep. But from that undefeated, point forward, undefeated Big Ten
conference champion. Yeah.
Fine. But from that point forward, what criteria you're using? With Notre Dame, you're using your record. Okay. I'm 11-1.
11-1, lost to Northern Illinois.
Right.
It's a bad
but
loss.
You're using your record. With Indiana, you're using your record. It's the record. Okay. That's fine. I get it. But then you're looking at like other teams, like let's say Boise State. Why do they get the 4? Why does Arizona State get the 4? What are they, the 4? Boise State's the 3. Why is Arizona State the 4 when you rank them in the final playoff ranking as 12? But their record should have put them up with the top 5 teams. And then you did that in the bracket. Like, make this make sense to me.
I thought that the automatic qualifier did not negate, like, I thought it negated like rankings. Like, I thought you get an automatic bid if you win your conference, but it didn't give you like a 4. Like, I guess it did, but we didn't really pay that much. At least I personally didn't pay that much attention to the fact that if you're a conference champion, the highest 4 ranked conference champions were the ones that were getting this 1 through 4 seed. They were getting the bye. So right. If, again, it goes back to my point, if you're going to rank them the way that you're going to put them in the brackets, then it should have been Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Boise State 3, Arizona State 4, and then it should go down the list of the rest of the teams win. Like, again, and it doesn't make sense to me. And we had this conversation for a prolonged time last week, so I don't want to get into it again. But like, if you're looking at teams like Arizona State jumped Miami, it jumped Ole Miss, and it jumped South Carolina. Why didn't they jump Alabama too? They have the same record.
Well, no, Arizona they have a better record. Arizona State is 11-2. Alabama is 9-3. So Arizona State has a better record. They did not rank them higher than Alabama, even though they're in the top 4 of the playoff. That doesn't make any sense.
Rich says he agrees with
Shane
the
Beamer said
show.
Actually, Shane Beamer said it the best. I've seen I've seen it twice now. They interviewed Shane Beamer, and he said it doesn't. Basically, I'll paraphrase. He basically said it doesn't make sense for them to play any tough teams out of conference next year. We're going to have to redo the schedules because you can play and not beat a ranked team. Looking at you, Indiana, you cannot beat a ranked team and end up in the playoff. And so obviously these teams are going to have to rethink how they're going to schedule their schedules. And it's ridiculous to play any good teams outside of your conference. Why would you do that when it's going to hurt you? And it doesn't help you if you beat them. South Carolina probably has the biggest gripe of any team in America right now, because down the stretch in their last 6 games, they beat 4 ranked teams. The college football playoff did not care that they're the hottest team in college football right now. That makes zero sense. They're in the top 12 when it comes to how the team's playing right now. And because they lost 3 games early in the season when they had a hurt quarterback, Florida State, they're not in the college football playoff. It makes no sense. These guys didn't take into account strength of schedule. How is Notre Dame in the college football playoff? If San Diego State played Notre Dame's schedule and went 11-1, they wouldn't be in the playoff this year.
You're right. How about this? Did you see that the SEC released their 2025 schedule tonight? I'm gonna give you a couple of quick notes.
I saw the Gator schedule already.
So I'm gonna give you a couple quick notes. South Carolina. We talked about losing the games early in the season. They said, "All right, we'll see how well you do." So in between October to November, like we finished the year with Coastal and Clemson, but before that, 3 of our last 4 games are against Texas A&M or on the road at Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama. We're Alabama at home, at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M before we get Coastal and Clemson. You want to hear a crazy stat about Alabama? In the month of November, the University of Alabama does not play a game outside of the state of Alabama. They gave Alabama 4 home games in Auburn. The last away game that Alabama plays is against South Carolina the last week in October. It's insane. It's insane. The continued bias that even the SEC is giving their blue bloods. Podcast Mini also says, you know why Notre Dame is in there, Bill. Of course, we all do.
It's awful. It's awful.
And not to mention, South Carolina opens the season against Virginia Tech. I think it might be like one of the Chick-fil-A kickoff games or the whatever it is in North Carolina, the Bank of America Bowl, North Carolina game. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, this system is brand new.
And it's broken.
It's like you order a bookshelf from Amazon, and when you get the shelf at home, they didn't leave any screws in the box. Like, how are you supposed to put the shelves up without a screw to put it together? Like, without the brackets. Like, the college football playoff is already broken. And when they go to 16, it's not going to fix anything. It's just going to make it worse.
Can I say one more issue I have with this?
Yeah.
Who's the best team in the country?
That's a question.
Let's just say it. We know who right now.
I would say Oregon.
There's one team that's undefeated, and they've gone through the Big Ten undefeated. They've beat all the good teams in the Big Ten. We know that, right?
Beat Penn State, beat Ohio State, beat everybody else. Yeah.
Their schedule, their way to get to the college football final is going to be harder than the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
Because whoever they're going to play in the second round is either going to be Ohio State or Tennessee. Then likely they're going to play Texas in the semifinal, which is brutal, right? Ohio State was number 2 forever. They blew it against Ohio State. That was against Michigan. That was just dumb. They just played wrong. They
shouldn't be in the playoff. They shouldn't be in the playoff. When you lose to Michigan in the last week of the season as a 21-point favorite, you shouldn't be in the playoff.
Now,
even Ohio State fans are saying it.
Let's look at Georgia. Georgia has to play the winner of Indiana. They scare everyone, don't they? Not at all. And Penn State, who just got beat by Oregon.
It's Notre Dame.
What?
Indiana plays.
Oh, I'm sorry, Notre Dame. I'm looking at it wrong.
Sorry,
Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Who played an FCS schedule? Let's call it what it is, right?
We talk about rankings. They're ranked 5th in the college football playoff rankings, and they're the 7th seed.
So you're not afraid of them, right? You're not afraid of those teams. Nope. That's who Georgia's going to play in their first round, so the second round, the quarterfinals. And on the other side of their bracket, you've got SMU, Penn State. Penn State wins that game, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got Penn State, Boise State. Toss up, maybe, or Penn State. But you and I have been saying for a month that Penn State is not a threat to make the college football playoff final.
I think Boise State beats Penn State, if we're going to be honest.
Regardless, Is Georgia going to be threatened by either one of those teams?
No.
If Stockton plays well, we'll have to see.
Depending, they still haven't released an injury report on what's wrong with Carson Beck.
They were concerned it was going to be a UCL joint injury like Brock Purdy had last 2 years ago.
Well, then he's done. They're going to have to rely on Gunnar Stockton.
Stockton. That's what I'm saying. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, Stockton looked good in the game we watched him play this weekend, right?
Of course.
So anyway, that's their bracket. That's how they get through. Georgia has a way easier schedule than Oregon does. Oregon's going to come up against Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, Georgia's going to come up against Notre Dame and Boise State. Come on.
Yeah, you don't want to think that they seeded it purposely to help favor a team like Georgia, but like you also got to take into consideration that Tennessee's got one fewer game played than Ohio State. They might be a little healthier than Ohio State going to that game. If you're watching the video feed, you're seeing the playoff matchups going across the screen. So yeah, you've got Tennessee at Ohio State. So Tennessee may win that game, and the winner of that game would go on to play Oregon in a bowl game. And like to your point, you got number 12 Clemson at number 5 Texas, and that winner will play Arizona State. So more than likely it will be Texas. I'm curious to see, because Arizona State, if there was one team as hot as anybody else in college football, including South Carolina, you'd have to argue that Arizona State is one of them, because they beat some teams down the stretch that were playoff hopefuls. Like BYU was undefeated and they lost 2 straight. One of them was a big win by Arizona State, and then they absolutely pound Iowa State in that Big 12 championship.
They killed Iowa State. They beat Kansas State. They've beat 3 ranked teams in their last 4 games.
Yeah, so Arizona State, you're right. That side of the bracket is a gauntlet. Not saying that the other side isn't, but like to your point, like you've got SMU at Penn State. The winner of that game plays Boise State. So sort of the weaker of the matchups. And then Indiana and Notre Dame, 2 teams that everybody we just argued that ourselves that Indiana and Notre Dame belong in the playoff. And then they get to get pounded by the SEC champion in the second game of the playoff. So
Indiana should not be in. They should not be in.
I will mention real quick. We talked about Shane Beamer, AP, Associated Press, and USA Today's SEC Coach of the Year, despite the fact that the conference gave it to the coach from Vanderbilt. He made a comment that, we would like to be playing in the college football playoff, but at the same time, I kind of feel bad for the teams that have to play in the first round, because if you go in the first round and you lose, that's it. You don't get a bowl game.
That's true.
Like at least South Carolina going to the Citrus Bowl are going to get an opportunity to, like he talked about, we get to spend the week in Orlando. We get to grow as a team. We get to be there for each other and have a good time. So he's like, I feel bad for the teams that have to play in the first round, because if you lose, your season's over without a bowl game. Mm-hmm. Volley Polly in the chat says, well, I was going to ask buy or sell or factor crap, but Tennessee doesn't make it. Tennessee does not make it past Ohio State. Yeah. Listen, Volley Polly, we're actually, you can ask the question. We can help you out with it. But when we get to NFL talk, we're sort of wrapping up factor crap and buy or sells this year as we're heading towards the end of the college football.
Hey, Ryan, I want to know if you knew what Indiana's big win this season was.
We talked about this last week. I just don't remember who it was.
No,
I don't remember who it was.
Michigan.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's the best team they beat this year. A team that can't throw the football.
Yeah, touche. Bill, let me ask you a question, because we're running up against it. We got to get to a little bit of NFL talk.
No, come on. Nobody wants to talk about the NFL.
There are some non-playoff bowl games that have come up. Your Florida Gators made a bowl game this year. We were talking about a couple of those games when we got together last weekend. Are there any of these games that you're interested in seeing? I know we always talk about the transfer portal and kids leaving and kids sitting out bowl games. Are there any games on the slate that you're kind of looking forward to watching to see what happens?
I mean, honestly, I'm just going to watch I'm going to watch all of them.
Yeah.
As many as I can. I'm really interested in your bowl. I want to see how South Carolina plays against Illinois. I think Illinois is not very good. I watched Rutgers. Should have beat Illinois at Rutgers. Of course, Dad's a Rutgers fan, and that was I won't even talk about how that game ended, but
yeah,
they should have won that game. Rutgers should have won that game. They actually had it won and then made a dumb error. But I'll watch that game. I think South Carolina is going to beat the pants off of them pretty bad. And then obviously the Gasparilla Bowl. The bad news is Florida's playing Tulane, and I'm pretty sure Tulane's starting quarterback just entered the transfer portal. So that's going to be that's not going to be great either. So that's where all of this is going to get weird. is that all these players are jumping into the transfer portal and not playing in the bowl games. And who knows what you're going to get in the bowl games now. This is what the heck, man? Like, where did this happen? Like, how did this happen? How are we just like completely skipping the bowl games now? Like, this is ridiculous how this is happening now. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get. I'll just watch games just to see what we see.
Apparently that kid's going to Duke, according to podcast Spinny. You heard it here first.
But how did we get to this point where like the bowl, like making a bowl was always like the goal for South Carolina? I'm just kidding. That's terrible. Right?
It was.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of bowl games before Lou Holtz got there.
There you go. So it used to be the goal for football teams. Now there's a million bowls, and making a bowl isn't quite as prestigious because there are like 40 of them now. But at the same time, you open the portal for these kids to leave. And now, like, starters are leaving to transfer to other schools. How did we get to this point where this has happened? I can't. So now these bowl games are even more trivial because you might not even have your team that you've been rooting for all year playing in the bowl game. You have, I guess, next year's and the prospects. I guess that's what happens. But we saw with Florida State last year. Georgia absolutely smacked Florida State because of this. Rich,
I agree with you. We've talked about it before. The regulation of the transfer portal needs to happen in general.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I am excited about the Citrus Bowl. South Carolina got the invite over the other SEC teams. The Citrus Bowl was the first one to select the non-playoff teams. They chose South Carolina, so I'm excited about that game.
I have another thing.
What's up?
What is with these bowl games? I mean, does everybody have like the entire 2 weeks of Christmas off? I don't. And so, like Florida's bowl game, I can't watch it. It starts while I'm at work.
Friday, Wednesday.
Yeah, it's 3:30 on Friday. Like the other one. I mean, I'm obviously a Rutgers fan, right? I've worn the Rutgers hat and stuff on the show. Dad's a Rutgers fan. During the Rate Bowl, they play Kansas State at 5:30 on a Thursday. Yeah. You know, I'll get home to watch. By the second quarter probably. But what is with these bowl? I mean, we all have a lot of channels. I have a room that has multiple TVs in it. And obviously, that's probably pretty special, but. We can stream stuff. Like, why aren't we playing bowl games at the same time? Like, just so that I can watch them and they're not on at 2 p.m. I don't understand that part.
Chris says you don't work, you got time. Listen, I have a room with.
I'll have them on. That's actually true, Rich. I'll have them on in the room, but it's still ridiculous.
I've got a room in my house with 2 TVs. It's called my living room. No,
see,
I'm kind of curious to watch Alabama and what used to be the Outback Bowl, the ReliaQuest Bowl, because somehow they were able to pull Michigan, and they're going to beat the absolute living crap out of Michigan.
That's terrible.
You got Army making a bowl game after winning their conference. They get Marshall. You talked about Marshall, the whole team transferring out, so that should be a bowl win for Army. A couple of ranked versus ranked games: Iowa State versus Miami in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I don't know when Pop-Tarts got their own bowl game, but that's cute. BYU, Colorado, 2 teams that were thinking that they had a shot at the college football playoff. Nope, they're playing in the Alamo Bowl. Let's see what else you got here. Georgia Tech versus Vanderbilt. The bowl, it's called the Birmingham Bowl, but it's really the Nerd Bowl because those are the 2 smart schools. Navy gets to host Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl. So that's fun. Both Army and Navy going to a bowl game this year. I mean, there are some fun matchups to watch outside of the playoff. So if you haven't thought about it, I suggest you do. Yeah, it's crazy. Y'all play in a bowl game on December 20th, Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon against Tulane.
We've got 2 bowl games this weekend, Ryan. It's not just Army Navy this year, unfortunately.
You got one game. Saturday is South Alabama versus Western Michigan and the Salute to Veterans Bowl. The other game's on Tuesday. That's Memphis at West Virginia.
The Cricket Celebration Bowl, Jackson State versus South Carolina State, is at noon.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Then you get Army Navy at 3, and then at 9 p.m. you get the South Alabama Western Michigan Bowl.
Well, a lot of college football, even this weekend. Rich wanted Miami to play Colorado in a bowl game. I wanted Miami to bowl. As a South Carolina fan, I wanted Miami. There were early reports of South Carolina versus Colorado in the Las Vegas Bowl. But I'm happy with the Citrus Bowl. But it would have been nice to go beat down Colorado or Miami.
What's Miami going to look like? Because Cam Ward's not going to play in a bowl game, I don't think.
He might. He hasn't said he had. He hasn't said he wasn't going to.
I heard that if they didn't make in the Syracuse, when we were watching this, I think you and I were watching the Syracuse game together. Words are hard. But they had said that was the last game he was going to play if they lost, and they did. Okay.
Bye.
I mean, whatever. I just what's Miami going to look like going into a bowl game?
All right, let's get into some NFL talk. We were going to talk about some playoff teams that were in the hunt. that might have a shot for the playoffs. We'll save that for next week since we're running late here. Let's talk some fantasy football. Volley, if you're still here, put your question in the chat because I'm with you. Rich also says that Cam Warren needs it for draft stock. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, but I think they're already rating him as the number one quarterback. So what do you need to do? It's the Marvin Harrison Jr. situation where he didn't even go to the combine because everybody knew he was the best, or everybody thought he was the best receiver.
Yeah. Listen, like I said, Volleyball, if you're still here, put your question in the chat. If you've been watching the show this season, you know that we've done fantasy football, bullies, buys and sells, and Bill's factor crap. Seeing is that for many people, this is the last week of fantasy football regular season. We were just going to sort of wrap it up. I didn't want to just forget about it and not talk about it. So I calculated some numbers, and last week was my worst week of the season as I went 1-7. But that allowed Bill to take an overall season win on Factor Crap. I think it might be the second year in a row. I finished the season 51-45. Bill finished the season 53-43. My best week on the year was 6-2. I did it twice. Bill's was 7-1, but his worst weeks were 2-6. He did that twice. Bill, any thoughts about the fact that you were able to call? I think we're going to have to change this up next year.
Yeah, it's low hanging fruit for me that I just have to disagree with your terrible picks, which is pretty easy to do mostly. But I mean, I'll take the title. I'm a better fantasy football player. That's clear. We know that.
Maybe get one of those WWE belts with a gator on it or something because they have the Florida ones. They don't have the South Carolina ones.
Oh, really? Can we just get one made that has Gamecock on one side, Gator on the other?
We probably can make that happen.
Just says Factor Crap.
Let's talk about it off the air. Volley probably wants to know because we're not picking it right now.
Yeah.
Tennessee loses to Ohio State. He thinks Tennessee's going to lose. What say you? You got Ohio State over Tennessee?
Yeah, I think Ohio State's a better team.
I'm going to go there too, but we'll wait because we're going to pick that game when it comes. So congratulations once again to Banker Bill for winning this year's buys and sells / fact and crap.
Didn't help me in regular fantasy football though. Did not help.
Did not. And that's where we're going to get to fantasy football finale. Bill, this is sort of just kind of an open forum, and maybe we talk about it more next week as we get into the playoffs. How does your I don't know how I did it because I've shown people my team, and in my two ESPN leagues, I'm 6-8 and 5-9, and I really wasn't eliminated from playoff contention until 2 or 3 weeks ago. I've talked to people that have some of the best teams they've ever had, and they're just losing games. The only league that I'm in the playoff is in sort of a free league that is my only dynasty league that I have. And I've lost the last 2 weeks in that league. What the heck happened, Bill? What is happening in fantasy football?
I'm going to give myself a pass. I went 5-9. I only played in one league this year because the tap outs and touchdowns league didn't happen. Yeah. But I went 5-9. I know what happened. It's a group of buddies that are all in this one league, right? And I'm in it with them, obviously. We got on Discord to do the draft. We're all over the country. And we got on Discord to do the draft. And I left. The draft was over. I left to go do other things. And they decided as a group, without me there, after we'd already drafted, to change the scoring system to make it more of a what do you call it?
PPR?
Points per, PPR league. I couldn't think of the word I was saying, PPF. PPR league. And also the defenses got more points. I haven't even looked at the scoring system to find out what they changed it to because it was at that point there was much I could do. I had drafted my team to be a non-PPR team, so it was running back. So I ended up with Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley as my first 2 draft picks. Decent receiving backs, but then I ended up with pretty mediocre wide receivers, which is what you need to bank your team on if you're in a PPR league. So that's kind of what happened to me. And then Jaden Reed was very inconsistent. Oh, and Waddle. Jalen Reed and Jalen Waddle were my 2 top wide receiver draft picks, and both very inconsistent, especially with Tua being out. So that was a problem. But 5-9. I won the championship in that league last year, so that's kind of unfortunate. I'll give myself a pass, though.
12-2. He was smart enough to grab Barkley, Mixon, and Chase Brown. A decent slew of running backs.
That's a non-PPR league. Clearly a non-PPR league that you're playing in.
My 5-9, or no, my 6-8 league. My only problem is I went way too heavy on the Lions. I drafted. So in my league, I've talked about it on the show before. No, but I really don't. Like,
Then you get really angry when people steal your Lions from you.
so I wanted Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I in my keeper league, I was able to keep him as my first round draft pick. But the rules to my keeper league, if you draft somebody in the 11th round or later, you get to use them as your last round draft pick. So I was able to draft Sam Laporta in the last round of my draft. Preseason, you're like, oh my God, you're starting the season off with Amon-Ra and Laporta? Dude, you're set. And then Jahmyr Gibbs fell to me in the second round. I'm like, okay, sweet. I don't want to load up on Lions, but like those are the 3 Lions to have at that time, right? And then I come to around 8 or 9 and nobody's taking David Montgomery. And I'm like, well, I want him in case Gibbs gets hurt. And then you could literally start them both every week. They both score upwards of 20 points a week. So you can't just sit one and not the other. And then to your point, like I had Mike Evans who missed a few weeks, which sucked because then it was like the weeks that the Lions didn't play well, even though they won games, like it completely crumbled my team. I made a trade like right before the trade deadline that saw me get rid of Josh Jacobs for T. Higgins and Romeo Doubs because with Mike Evans out, it was Amon-Ra St. Brown and nobody else. So that was that league. My work league really pissed me off a few weeks ago. I was winning, going like Monday Night Football. I was still in the playoff run. And I can't remember, it was Cleveland versus somebody, and it was the Broncos versus the Browns. And all I needed was the Broncos not to score a pick 6. And they pick Jameis Winston off and go to the house. But good news, I've got the kicker for the Broncos, so I go back up a point. So all I need them to do is not throw it. Jameis, don't throw an interception. Turnover on downs. He throws an interception. I lose by 1, and that basically ended my season in that league. So it's been a really stressful, like really upsetting fantasy football season. Volley Polly wants to know, should he risk putting in Charbonnet this week, thinking he could replicate what he did last week? Not familiar.
They're playing Green Bay this week. Green Bay gives up 107 yards a game. I looked it up. I know the statistics. Yeah, so it's all about whether or not Kenneth Walker is going to play. Is he still injured?
If Walker plays,
watch it till that day, because I think right now they haven't made the call. So you have to watch it till that day. If I don't think he replicates it because that was insane, but he'd definitely be a starting running back because he's going to be the only one. They don't have a third stringer that's any good. Those guys usually split time. So if Kenneth Walker doesn't play, you want to start Charbonnet.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week that I can't even pronounce his name. Isaac the running back. Guerendo. Isaac Guerendo. We bought him last week on the show when it comes to fantasy football because you're getting a starting running back in week 12, week 14, whatever the hell we're in. So yeah, you pick him up, you start him, and he went off for like 26 points. So you get a chance to play a starting running back, you play the starting running back.
Yep.
Rich wants to know Higgins or start Higgins and Jerry Jeudy.
If Jameis Winston is alive, you start Jerry Jeudy. Which
Jeudy didn't have a.
He had a touchdown.
Who's the Thursday night football game? The Rams and Niners. Yeah, I like Higgins.
Whoa, was that a karate chop there?
Yeah. No, I like Higgins, man. I mean,
really?
Go with your gut. I still don't believe in Jerry Jeudy.
You don't like the fact that Jerry Jeudy's put up double-digit points since week 8? I hate that too. Hey, that's why you're not in the playoffs. That makes sense.
If we weren't on this podcast, I swear to God. All right. Good luck in your fantasy football playoffs. Find us on social media and ask your questions going into the playoffs because, I mean, who better to give you fantasy football playoff advice than 2 guys that aren't in playoffs this season?
That's right.
Anyway, let's wrap up the show here. Podcast pick'ems. Baker Bill had another good week, 5-0. I went 4-1. So Baker Bill's got a 3-game lead on me now at 39-29.
I told you I would come back. I told you I would finally get it. I'm getting it.
I knew you would. Yeah. We're only picking one college game this week. Rich says that's why he's here. To get advice from 2 guys not in the playoffs.
That's right.
One college game we're going to pick this weekend, and it's because it's Army-Navy. Navy taking on Army, the number 22 team in the country. Army is a 6.5-point favorite. Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff over on CBS. Bill, you got Army taking on Navy in the Battle of the Service Academies.
I hate this one because of the spread, because 6.5 is a lot, but I think Army's actually pretty good. But these guys, man, they battle it out. So the spread makes me really nervous, but I still think I'll take Army to cover that. 6.5 is a lot. And these teams don't score a ton, but I think Army's a better team.
Yeah, I hope because Army's been known to like throw the ball a little more this year than we're used to out of those like triple option Service Academy offenses. Give me Army as well. I don't think we're going to see an upset here. And the way that Army's been playing, I like them to take it. Rich says Rich is taking Navy. Okay, that's fun.
I mean, the spread scares me. That's tough.
All right, let's go over to Thursday Night Football over on Amazon Prime. The Los Angeles Rams take on the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners, a 3-point home favorite. They're getting the home points from Vegas. Listen, no Christian McCaffrey. The offense is continuing to stay banged up. I don't know. I like the Rams, man. The Rams just seem to be that team that just doesn't go away and win games that you don't expect them to win. Give me the Rams to upset the Niners on Thursday Night Football. Bill, what say you?
Haven't we seen this before from the Rams? Oh, yeah, last year, where they made a run at the end of the season. They just beat the Bills this week. I mean, come on.
Yep.
That game was nuts. I don't feel like the Rams can play defense worth a lick, but I mean, I think with the spread, I'll take the Rams too. I can't. I can't.
You're taking the Niners?
This one's tough, man. This one's tough. They can't play defense, but the Niners put up 38 against the Bears, who have a decent defense. All right, Rams. I'll go Rams.
All right, I gotta go change it on my spreadsheet again, Mr. Flip Floppy.
Sorry.
The first game on Sunday we're gonna take is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Carolina Panthers. 5-8 Cowboys at the 3-10 Panthers. There is a specific reason that I decided that we're gonna pick this game, Bill. Have you figured it out yet? It is because I believe this is the first time this season that the Carolina Panthers have been favored in a game. Give me the Panthers to beat the Cowboys in Charlotte this weekend.
Really?
Yeah, I'm taking the Panthers. Bill, what say you?
Oh my gosh. Why would all right. No, I don't even want any analysis of this. I just wonder why the Panthers would be suddenly. Is it because of Cooper Rush?
I'll give it to you. First of all, Bryce Young has been playing really well. He's only had one interception in his last 3 or 4 games. They're averaging about 4 sacks a game on defense. Since DJ Wanham has come back and brought some pass rush to that team, they are getting after the quarterback. The DBs are somewhat healthy.
How many games have they won?
It doesn't listen.
Oh, that part. You're right.
A few years ago, I said the Detroit Lions were the best 3-win team in football, the best 3-win team in NFL history. And the next year they came out and they showed everything, showed improvement every single year. The Panthers are getting to that point. They lost by a field goal to the Chiefs. If it wasn't for a drop pass by Xavier Legette, they beat the number 2 team in the NFC, the Eagles, this week. They've been playing really well against really good teams in the NFL. I love the Panthers. And even Rich says the Panthers are going to finish a game. They're going to do it against the Cowboys. That's why I'm taking the Panthers.
Did you know the Panthers had 4 games in a row where they either won or lost by less than 3 points or 3 points or less?
Yes.
That was their biggest loss of the last 5 games, or last 3 games, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'll take the Panthers.
Look at you taking the Panthers. Did I change your mind, or did you like?
No, I just don't. I don't love the Cowboys either. And the Cowboys clearly, I mean, the Panthers are playing better competition lately, and the Cowboys haven't beaten anybody worth a darn in a bit. So
the only thing that worries me about the Panthers is that they're letting opposing running backs average right around 6 yards a carry. And Rico Dowdle just ran off for 130 last week and against the Bengals. So it'll be interesting to see that game. Not to mention Jonathan Brooks, rookie running back for the Carolina Panthers, retore his ACL last week in a non-contact.
Same one, too.
The same ACL that he tore in Texas. Shout out. Hope you speedy recovery for Jonathan Brooks. All right, Bill, the next game is also a 1 o'clock kickoff over on Sunday. Your Miami Dolphins are traveling out to Houston to take on the Texans, a matchup against potential playoff teams. If the Dolphins find a way to win this game, they're right there at 500. They could find themselves in the hunt to make the playoff. Bill, who wins Dolphins at Texans? Texans a 3-point favorite.
This is the week that the Dolphins get the fork stuck in them. Texans cover this.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to continue to be the optimist about your own team. I
You
think the
lose
Dolphins.
every time you pick them, they lose. Every time.
I'm taking the Dolphins not only to cover, but they win this game. Instagram feed, I believe, is down, so that's fun. I can't get this off. What are we doing here? I sometimes I hate StreamYard, but all right, we're still live. All right. The last game we're taking is the Buffalo Bills at the Detroit Lions. The Lions somehow, real quick, I think Rich might have picked the game. Rich says, "Love you, Bill, but Texans are too much." The Lions are a 2.5-point home favorite against the Buffalo Bills. If I'm not mistaken, are the Buffalo Bills not the number one seed in the AFC right now? Or is it no? It's still the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Chiefs. Okay.
And the Bills took their third loss this week. Chiefs are 2 games up on them.
Yeah, I forget the Bills lost to the Rams last week.
Yeah.
4:25 kickoff on CBS. I'm hoping this is the national game. I can't imagine why it wouldn't be, but it'd be nice to be able to watch a Lions game not on Red Zone in the comfort of my own house. Volley Polly says, "Bad take, Bill. He's going Miami too."
Oh wow.
Optimism. Bill, what say you? Bills at Lions. Can Lions cover and get this big win? Against the Bills.
I feel like the Lions are slipping a little bit. I hate to say that, a team that only has 1 loss and they just keep winning, they're slipping, but they are playing closer games than I anticipate they should be playing against the competition that they're playing against and where they're playing them. The Packers was a home game, and that was controversial for Packers fans, but that means Packers fans are idiots because no quarterback that falls down on his way to giving a running back a handoff that never means he's down, guys. Packer fans bitching about nothing. Oh, excuse my language, but complaining about something that they don't have any idea about. I mean, come on. The Packers fans, the whole fan base is making themselves look stupid. And then they beat the Bears by 3. That's not a great win. Your Lions are making me nervous. They're making me nervous, but they're better than the Bills. Give me the Lions in this one.
I actually had you down for the Bills. I knew you were going to take the Bills.
Why do I keep making you change? That's what I'm trying to do. It's reverse psychology, Ryan. I make you think that I'm taking the other team, and then I shock you with my pick.
My concern is that the Lions continue to get more and more like banged up. Anzalone will be back before the end of the year, probably for the playoffs. If we make the Super Bowl, Aiden Hutchinson is hopeful that he'll be back for the Super Bowl. But we lost another backup linebacker in Malcolm Rodriguez to a torn ACL a couple weeks ago. We're signing some guys to fill those holes. Listen, I talked about it to open the show. The Lions are on an 11-game win streak. It's the longest win streak in team history. At some point, that win streak has to come to an end, and I think it does this week. I think the Lions are just they've been running, like you said, they've been winning those close games against some good teams, some not so good teams. And I think Dan Campbell is going to have these guys ready. I think this is going to be a really, really hard-fought game. I think it's a 3-point game either way, and I'm taking the Bills to win it by a field goal at Detroit, which sucks. But maybe to your point, like maybe it's the reverse psychology. You don't pick your Dolphins so that you're not upset if they lose. Like if you lose the pick, I wouldn't be upset if I lost this pick and the Bills won this game. Bill, we're up. We're way past it. Actually,
the Lions won this game. If you lost the pick and the Lions won this game.
You get it. You know what I'm trying to say. It's late. I'm tired. I've had a long week. Bill, anything you want to say before we head off the air for the night?
Sam Darnold, cut it out, man. You're not this guy. You're just not this guy. Cut it out. Stop it.
I don't get it. What do you mean? What did he do?
108 passer rating, Sam Darnold.
Oh, yeah, touche.
How about touchdowns? Stop it.
Have you seen this video rolling around with a guy that held the sack record before Michael Strahan?
Mark Gastineau, yeah.
Yeah, Mark Gastineau. Have you seen that video where he confronts Brett Favre?
Yeah. You hurt me, man. You hurt me. He was always a bum. Don't worry about it.
Listen.
He juiced. Look at him now. Like, does he look like an athlete or ever was an athlete? Brett Favre looks like the tougher guy at this point.
I'm gonna call CTE on this dude. Like that was sad to watch. Like not because like I felt bad for him. It was sad because like what a miserable bum that must be.
Yeah.
Now the Rob Brown on the Rob Brown show, it is disgraceful. He said, I think Lonzo said that it was a work. Like it was for 30 for 30. It was staged. Like, we're all getting worked. If you don't know what that means in pro wrestling terms, that means that it's not real. They did it for the cameras, and that's it. So, who knows? But either
It was
way,
awkward. Either
was
way,
it was
awkward. Yeah.
a very awkward scene. All right, folks, if you want to follow the show, first of all, thanks for everybody who joined. Rich, I'm gonna give you a shout out because you were here most of the night, and you were all up in the comments.
Thanks, Rich.
So thank you, thank Volley Polly, thank Podcast Smitty. Y'all are very active in the show tonight. Thanks, Mama Frick, for sticking around. She's probably still here. Thanks to the folks over on Instagram who are watching the show over at Ryan Frick Comedy on Instagram. But if you were watching on Instagram and you weren't watching on Facebook.com /slapouts, Facebook.com /tapouts and touchdowns, you're probably watching over on the YouTube channel at Tapouts and Touchdowns. And I know where you weren't watching it because we don't go live on anymore over there anymore. And that's on X at Tapouts and TDs. Because I am I'm very active on that X account. But that's a lot of Gamecock tweeting. So nevertheless, all right, what we have in store next week, I'm not sure. We got some bowl games that are coming up. We might talk. Probably not going to have a whole lot more college football talk outside of maybe some big news out of the transfer portal. So, that heart was for Shauna up in the chat.
Not getting on here and saying hi.
Not for Rich. It wasn't for Rich. It was for Shauna. Yeah, we're probably going to be heavily involved in NFL talk. We're going to talk probably some playoff football as we're heading towards the end of the season. Maybe we throw around some fantasy football strategy when it comes to the playoffs. I don't really know.
Right. Two guys not making the playoffs are going to give up playoff strategy.
We're trying to tell you what to do with your team. Listen, I have a belt upstairs, and I have pictures that prove that I've won fantasy football championships before.
I thought you were like threatening me with a beating or something.
Like a WWE championship.
Like my dad
belt.
From when I was like 8 years old. Like, look, hey, I got the belt. Don't make me get the belt.
I mean, I've got this belt would hurt a lot worse than that belt.
Yeah,
there's like
a lot of metal
and gyms and stuff. Anyway, either way, we're gonna be back next week to talk football unless something crazy happens, like it almost happened tonight because we almost didn't go live tonight. But we should be back talking more football next week. So thanks everybody who joined wherever you joined. Please share the pages with your friends. Get everybody that you know to follow the show so we can grow. We've had some pretty big turnouts on the shows, on the live shows before. So we'd love to have some more interaction there too. So make sure you share the show wherever it is that you're watching, wherever it is that you get your podcast. For Baker Bill, it's your guy, Billy Rye. We'll see you next week right here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns.